Hi, Debbie here. So let's get started making our album. What I'm going to be using this time is I'm going to be using this Heartfelt Creations 3D Flip and Fold album. Since I already have this album here, I'm going to go ahead and just use it. I originally was going to do it from scratch, but I want to go ahead and just use this album up since I have it. And it's a 7x9, so that's what size this album is. So, and this is what it looks like. You got, you got the front. I think the spine is a 3-inch spine, and it's like this, and it has 5 pages in it already. So all we need to do is just decorate it with our pretty papers, and and add folds and pockets and things like that. So that's what we're going to be doing here. So the first thing we need to do, I got this shadow, and I don't really know what to do about it, so I apologize for that. But what the first thing we need to do is get the paper that we're going to want to use for our front and back covers, and this is the one that I'm going to be using. So what I need you to do is I need you to cut that white, that shadow's going to drive me nuts. Cut that white piece off on the top, and then I'm going to want you to cut over 6 inches and cut it. Now on this piece right here, I need you to turn your paper this way, and then I'm going to want you to go over 8 7/8 of an inch and cut it, because on the back you'll notice this little tag here. We need that little tag for something else. So, and then on this side you can just cut down 8 7/8 and cut it. So that's all you need to do with that. And then you should have, and this is what you're going to have, you'll have these 2 pieces here. This one's going to be for the back, and this one is going to be for the front. And I do ink all my papers. All my papers will be inked. I might not do it on camera, but they're definitely all going to be inked, and I am using the milled lavender. And this you can get at J&S Hobbies and Crafts in the larger tube. This is actually the little small one I'm using right now. And I will be inking all my papers, and I'm also going to be inking a couple of the little white Tim Holtz flowers that I have here with that. So let's do that. And the next thing I'm going to need you to get out of your paper pad is this piece right here, and it looks like that on the back. What we want are these 2 decorative border strips here. So what I want you to do is I want you to cut, there's a little white line you'll notice between these 2, cut that out, and then of course cut it from here too, and then and I'll show you, and then I need you to just turn them over and then cut 8 7/8, and then just cut across. So you should end up with 2 pieces that look like this. And that's what we're going to use for those 2 pieces for our cover. So that's what we have so far. So, so let's go ahead and start putting these together for our cover. Now a lot of the embellishments and things like that, I'll do some right now, but most of it I like to do at the end of my tutorial. So what we do is we just grab this. So this is what it's going to look like. We're going to have this is going to go up on our album like this. And we'll have a little bit of a white border front, on the top, bottom, and the side here. And it is going to go over onto the fabric a little bit. So this is what it's going to look like. And then we'll have our little border piece that we're going to be putting on here, like that. So let me set that over here. So what we need to do is we need to take our score tape, and we need to go around and put score tape all the way around the border of your paper, and then I would put 3 right down the middle. And I'm going to do that, and then I'll show you what mine looks like. Okay, so this is what I have. So this is all I did. I put it around, all around like that. And I did it the same on the back. And I also put score tape on my little borders that we cut out. And what you're going to want to remember is when you use your score tape, after you put it down, you really need to burnish it into your paper really well to get it to really stick down really good. You want to get out any air bubbles or anything like that. So this is what we have so far. So what we need to do is we need to just attach them to the book. And I'm going to take my book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my score tape. And I use a little bit of wet glue when I do mine, but I need to bring this really close to me, so I will probably be putting it, I'll do this off the video. But remove your score tape, align it up too, so that you have a little bit of a white border around, so it looks like that. Can you see that? A little bit of border. And like I said, you will be going over the fabric right here on your book. Just make sure you have the same amount going all the way around, and do it like that. And then you'll flip your album over, and you'll do the same for the back. Just attach it. So that's what I'm going to do, and then I'll show you what mine looks like. Okay, I have mine on. What might help too, so that you don't accidentally put one on upside down, which I have happened before, and it's no fun pulling these off, is to lay your book out flat like this. I mean, you can do that with this, it's going to be fine. And then place your paper like that. That way you don't get confused, because sometimes when you put one down and you flip it over, and somehow you just get turned around, and that can happen. So yeah, like I said, just leave it all the way out like that, and that will help you a lot on that. Also, I need to mention, the materials list is going to be in the description box below, where you can, so you'll know what materials that I'm using, and I'll also have the code so that you can go over to J&S Hobbies and Crafts and order what you need, and you'll know what I'm using here, because I might not always remember to explain to you or let you know exactly what I'm using. So anyway, now the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to put one of those little border strips that we cut out. So we're going to need to get those out, and we have two. And you can use whichever one you want for your front and your back, because I've decided, I do believe I wanted this one for the front. I'm going to put this one on the front, and then I will put this one on the back. So what I need to do is just remove my score tape, and then I'm going to line it up top to bottom to match the paper here, because they should be the same size. So if yours are not the same size, you need to cut them so they are. And we'll just put those on just like that. Just don't go over too far over to the edge, you don't want to do that. You can open your, if you want, you can actually open your album all the way out when you want to place these, so that you know you're away from the fold there. And you can just do it like that. That way when you fold your book, you won't be going over. So let's do that, front and back, and then I'll show you what mine looks like. Okay, so this is what we have so far. This is the front with our little border here. How pretty. And then the back looks like that. Okay, so what I want to do next is I'm going to put some lace right along here. So I have a piece of lace. Now this lace that I'm going to be using is actually from my stash, but J&S Hobbies and Crafts sells a lot of laces, but this one in particular I just wanted to use because I had it and I liked it, and it's a little flower trim. But they have these also at their store, so you can go over there and check out the different laces they have and find one that you like. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add it between the paper and the border paper. I'm just going to add it right across there, so it will look like that. And I'm going to also do the same on the back. So let me go ahead and lay down my lace. I'm going to cut it to fit, and I'll lay down my lace, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, this is what we have so far. That is a really pretty, just like that. So what we need to do now is we need to take the bling on the roll, and we're going to cut a strip of that, and we're going to place that right by our ribbon right here. Now if you're not using ribbon, which you don't have to do, is you can just place it right where the two different designs meet on the paper, and that would be very pretty right there too. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure, cut it to fit, and then I'm just going to take my art glitter glue and I'm just going to glue that down, and I'll show you what mine looks like. Okay, we got that down. So while that's hardening, and with the art glitter glue, it's going to take a few seconds for it to attach itself, you know, to grab what you're putting down. So give it just a few seconds, and so just be patient with it, because once it's down with our glitter glue, it's down really well. And so yeah, you do have a lot of time to work with it. Sometimes I'll actually put my glue down first, wait a couple of seconds, and then put my whatever it is I'm putting down, just so the glue is starting to get tacky. And so I'm going to do that. Well, anyway, what we need to do now is we need to get out your pointed floral lace, because this is going to be going down the spine of the book. So what I'm going to do is I am going to just measure my piece, and then I'm going to cut it, and then I'm just going to attach it to the spine of my album, and then I'll show you what mine looks like. Okay, the lace is all down, so this is what it looks like right now. How pretty, huh? Real pretty. So what we need to do is set this aside for a second. Just put it off to the side. Now remember, when we cut this out, I told you we wanted that little tag, that little tag there. So what we're going to do is you're going to take your Baroque frame, and you are going to line it up on that tag and get that little cottage right in the center. Well, first just cut out the tag, will be easier, and then you can just find the center inside, and then just take your pencil and draw a line on the outside. Just make little marks right in here on the outside of the frame, and then cut around it, and then we're going to glue it to the back of this frame. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, I got mine cut out. This is what it looks like. So what I'm going to do is just I'm going to add glue to the back of this, and then I'm going to attach it into the frame, just like that. I'll be right back and show you what mine looks like. Okay, this is what I have right here. I got it all glued down, and that's going to be attached just on the spine like this. But I want to tell you, if you don't like that image here on your cover, I mean not on your cover, but on the cover, yeah, the cover of the paper pad, there's a real pretty image right here also. Just take your frame and then just, you can frame that, or you can just go around and find, you know, something that you like in your frame. Because that's what I do a lot of times. I just take my frame and I just go around on papers until I find an image that I really like, and then I just pick that and just cut that out and use it. But that's something that you can do too if you don't particularly like that for your for the back. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glue that right down to the lace. And like I said, it's going to take a little bit for this art glitter glue to grab that lace, but it will. So I'm just going to add glue all the way around on my little frame here. Make sure I get a lot in the center here on the paper. I know it doesn't take much glue, but now I need to tilt this towards me a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. And then I'm just going to put it just like that. And then I'm just going to just hold that for a few seconds, and then I'll let go and we'll go from there. I'll be right back. Okay, I think this is set up enough. So what we're going to do now is we need to get out our frame. Our Designs by Shelley frame, we need to get that. And the paper that we took the border trim off on the side here, we need to get out this piece. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take our frame and we're going to center it on this image right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be bringing the bottom of the frame here, where that little purple line is there for that image here. So I'm going to just bring it right, I'm going to slide it over until I'm happy with how that looks. And this is the one I'm going to pick. Now there is another really pretty image right here on this paper if you wanted to have birds. Let me just put that down, that you could get it to go into your frame like that. So you can either do that one or the window, but I'm going to go with the window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to to set this down, find out exactly where I want it to be. And then I'm going to make a little pencil mark on the outside of the frame. Let me bring this up so I can show you what I mean. I'm not going to draw inside my frame. I'm going to go to the outside, and then I'm going to draw, I'll trace around this, and then I'll cut inside the pencil mark. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to show you what mine looks like when I have that all done. I just wanted to show you. See my little pencil mark that I made? So I traced around it. Okay, so when I cut, I'm going to cut inside the pencil. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, got it all in. This is what we have. See, you just cut around just to make sure that nothing shows through to the other side. You don't want any of your paper showing through all the little openings here. So just make sure you just trim it so it doesn't do that. As long as it's on this, as long as you don't see any paper hanging off, you're fine. So this is what we have here. Now this frame is going to be going right on, it's going to be going on the lace and under the little butterfly like that. I plan to do that. Instead of putting it like in the middle like here, the reason for that is because this was in my design team package, this die here, and I want to use this bird cage. So what I'm thinking of doing is putting the bird cage down here. So I'll have a bird cage and the frame like this. So that's what I'm going to be doing. But like I said, if you don't have the die, you can just bring your picture frame right into the center, and that will work fine. So let me go ahead and just glue that down. Now it is going to be gluing on the lace a little bit, but that's going to be fine. It's still going to lay flat enough that it's not going to be a problem. And it does come just right underneath the little butterfly wing over here. So it's just going to come all the way up just underneath the little butterfly wing right there. Just make sure it's straight up and down, and I'm going to glue that on, and then I'll be right back and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, I've got it all glued on, so this is what it looks like. So what I need to do now is I need to die cut some of these bird cages out. And I like to layer them. So I'm going to be doing maybe 4 or 5 layers just to give this, it's going to make it more stiff, and it's going to give it a little bit of dimension. So I'm going to go die cut a bunch of these out, and I'm going to glue them all together, and then I'll put it right here, and then I'll show you what it's going to look like, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got mine done. Now, depending on the weight of your cardstock and how thick you want yours, I'm using 110-pound weight, so I only needed to do 3 layers. But if I was using like 65, I would probably do 5 or 6 layers. And so what I'm going to do, when I place this down here on the corner, I don't want the whole thing to be, the whole cage to be totally flat. So what I'm going to do, I was originally going to bow it out, but then I didn't like the opening on the bottom. So what I'm thinking of doing is I'm just going to glue just around the outside edge of the whole cage, and then I'm going to glue it down here. And that way the whole inside is not glued to the bottom, glued to the paper, and it gives it more like a 3D effect. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to glue the cage down so it'll look like that. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll just place glue around the border of the cage, and then attach it just like that. And I'll be right back, and I'll show you what mine looks like. Okay, I got the bird cage down. This is what it looks like. Turned out really nice. Yeah, I just glued down the border, and that's all I'm going to do here. So the next thing I want to do is I need to put the start my closure on this. So I'm going to be using the large hook and eye, and that's these right here, the large hook and eye. Oh, you probably can't see it in the paper. And I need this piece right here. It's the same way I did my last album, and I usually do this for all my albums. 9 times out of 10, this is the closure I'll use. And so what I need to do is just find the center of my book here, which I did. I found the center and I made a little mark, so I'll know exactly where to put my little, as a matter of fact, let me get out the other part that goes with it. It does come too in a package. When I glue this on, I want to make sure this is going to fit. So let me do that. So I'm going to add some glue to just the outside of this and attach it. And I usually do all my closures this way. Sorry if my head, I don't know if my head got in your way or not. And then this piece I'm just going to set in here just to make sure how far in I can go, because I don't want it sticking out too far. Make sure I'm straight up and down. Make sure I can go back in there again. Oops. I think I can. I can probably bring it out just a little bit. Oop, stuck to my finger. There we go. And I'm just going to little clamp here. I'm just going to clamp that down, let that set. And that really, this is actually all the embellishments I'm going to do at this point. I like to do most of my embellishments at the very end, but this is as far as I'm going to go for now. So now we're going to start working on the inside of the album. Now I do have a cutting guide, and the cutting guide is just for the cardstock, because I don't know if we're going to be using the same dies or punches, so we'll have to measure and cut our pattern paper to fit. So that's what we're going to be doing here. But to get the baseline, to get all the cardstock, I do have a cutting guide for that, so that's something that you can do ahead of time and have that ready to go. So let me go ahead and just set this aside, and I'll start bringing in what we're going to need to start working on the inside of the album, and I'll be right back. Okay, the first thing we need to do is get our base page, and all our base pages are going to be the same size, 6 by 8. So this is going to be for pages 1 and 2. So this is the paper that we're going to be using for the base page, and it looks like this on the back. So what you need to do is we just need to remove this, the top white piece here, and we're going to, now I want this part right here not cut into, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to tilt the page like this. And this is on the lower right side, and I need you to come over 8 inches and cut, and then set this piece off to the side, and then come back and then just cut the other piece in half right down the middle, which is 6 inches. And I'll show you what mine looks like. Okay, so after you do your cuts, you should have 2 pieces like this, and this is what it looks like on the back. And then this piece, we're going to, with the little birds, we'll just set this off to the side. Yeah, I didn't want to cut into that, so in case I want to use it later. So let's go ahead and like I said, I'm going to be inking the edges of all my papers. And so we'll set one of these aside for page 2, and we'll start working on page 1. So in the cutting guide, let me just set that here. In your cutting guide, you should have already cut this piece here. This was your fold for your, this is going to be the fold for your cover. And then you also have the cuts for your waterfall. So what we need to do is we need to find a piece of paper that's going to go in the middle of this right here. So let's see what we can find, measure, and find a paper to go in the front of our little flip, because this is going to be like a fold. Because your waterfall, here's what I'm planning. The waterfall is going to be going on here on your base page, and this is going to fit around. Now I know this is, and we're going to cut this off because I know this is too too big. And that's going to go over like that, and it'll be held in with a magnet. So I just need to find paper for this and a paper for the inside, and then I'll be right back. Okay, now on your base page, for your flip out, it depends on what kind of a punch you use. Whether you use a decorative punch or if you just leave it with no punches at all, no decorative border at all, because you can leave it just plain square. That's perfectly fine. But you're going to need to bring in your score lines, and you're going to need to score at 1 1/4 and 1 1/2. So make sure you have those two score lines in there. And then when you measure your paper, depending on what punch you have, is the size it's going to fit in here, which I did. And the paper that I used for mine is from this one here, and it looks like this on the back. The little birds. I just cut out mine to fit. And then I'm going to use this one for the front. And then I'm going to use this one for the inside. But we're not going to place our inside one in yet, because we're going to need to put a magnet on this side when we get to that part. But we can, and I did ink the edges on all my paper with the milled lavender, this one color here, in case you forgot. It's this little guy right here. Yeah, this is it. And this is the only one I'm going to be using through the whole tutorial. This is the only ink that I'm going to be using. And so I've got it, and all I have to do is center it how I want it. Well, with the quarter punch that's on this, I had to make sure that I wasn't going into that. Because I was originally going to bring it like that, and I forgot, wait a minute, I have a little corner, so I had to bring it in a little bit. So the white showing on this side's got to be more than the white on that side. But that's perfectly fine for me, because that doesn't really matter to me. So that's what this is going to look like. So I'm going to go ahead and put glue on the back of this right here, and then I'm going to glue it down, and then I will hold off on this one, and then we'll get started working on our waterfall. I'll be right back. Okay, with the waterfall, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to cut 6, what is it, for the waterfall, we are going to need to cut 6 pieces of cardstock that are 4 by 5, and then on the 5-inch side we're going to want to score it a 1/2 inch. And if you want a decorative edge, you're going to want to put that in there too. So measure over your 4 by 5, make a score line at a 1/2 inch, and then what you're going to need to do is we're going to need to place a piece of score tape right here. So I'm using a 3/8 inch score tape, so I'll have more coverage that way. And if any score tape hangs off, even if it's the smallest amount, you're going to want to snip that off. And then we're going to want to fold that over so it's like this. And we're going to need to do that for all our pieces, which I've done already. So I have all mine done. So now we need to pick out the papers that we want to put on our waterfall. Now I'm going to be using a solid lavender color on my waterfall on some of the pages, and to mix with the pattern paper. So I'm going to be using that, and the sizes that we're going to need to put in here, I do believe, are 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. So let me double check. And this will give you a 1/8 border. So 3 7/8. And because of my punch, I know it's going to be 3 7/8 because of the punch I used. You might have to measure yours to fit, depending on what punch you use for your, the punches you are using. So I am going to cut out my pattern papers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be cutting out 6 in the lavender solid color, and then I'm going to go through the scraps on all the papers that we've used so far and see if I can use up some of those. So I'm going to go through, see what I have, see if I can get any of these to fit, some of the scraps that we have from what we've cut out so far. and I'm going to use those up before I cut into another piece of paper. So let me do that, and then I'll show you what I have, and I'll be right back. Okay, this is what I was able to find in my scraps. I got this one. Now all the undersides are going to be with the solid cardstock, and then this one, this one, this one, this, and that. So this is what I have. So we're going to be gluing the waterfall right onto this base page here. And how I find out where I want to be is I just line up my pieces like this, just to give me a rough idea. Because this is how they're really going to be glued down on these little, because that's where all our score tape is going to be. So this gives me an idea of how far I'm going to be. And I'm going to fold this one back a little bit, because what I need is I can't be in the center of my page, like, because normally they're in the center of the page, but because of this big flap that I have, I'll show you what I mean. They need to be off to the side because I need room for my magnet. I'm mainly interested right now is just making sure I'm even up and down, because once I know where I want to be, because this is going to go over it like this, and there's going to be a magnet behind here that's going to hold this down, and it's just going to hold the waterfall closed, so that when you get it, you just open it, and then your waterfall will be over here, and then the magnet, well, it's actually going to be on this side. I just need to make sure it's away from the waterfall. I can't have the magnet hitting the waterfall. It'd be way too thick, and there's no way the magnet would work. So it has to be on the paper here. So I know where I want to be. I kind of know where I want to be. So I'm going to make marks to make sure I stay centered. And I left my ruler over there. Okay. So let me go grab my ruler because I left it over there. And I'm going to make some marks where I make sure I keep my waterfall straight instead of tilting off to the side. Okay. Well, I have my ruler where I want it to be for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be removing the score tape. I'll add a little bit of wet glue in case I need it. And I'm going to hold this ruler and I'm going to put that right where I want it to be. Because once you have the first one down, the rest of them should stay even. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And you get that to work. Okay, I'm just going to hold these flaps back, hold my ruler down, find my mark. As a matter of fact, I need to make sure it didn't move. Sorry if my head's in the way. And I'll line that up right where it needs to be here. I'll just press it right up against that ruler, and that should be even. That should be straight, as I'm going to get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the second one, I'm going to remove the backing of the double-sided tape here. I'll add a little bit of wet glue just in case. Hold on one second. I had a meltdown for a minute. So I'm just going to butt that right up against it. Ah! That's what I've got so far. And then I'm just going to continue doing that all the way down until I have all 6 on, and then I'll show you what mine looks like. Let's get this last one on. Okay, so now we have all our pieces down. Now we can find out where our magnet needs to go. So grab your cover, and you're going to want to fold it. There's our 2 fold lines. The very first line to the left, fold that in. So you should see a score line here. That's what you want to see. So fold it all the way out. And you're going to push this all the way into that. And we're just going to line this, center this top and bottom. Get it all lined up, top to bottom. We're lined up here. Yep. Okay, we're going to hold this, and we are going to glue this back side down, so I'm going to hold that. And for quick tacking, I'm going to use the Fabri-Tac. So I'm going to just flip that open. Just add a little tacking with that. I'm just pressing it down. And then we're going to slide this over so that it's flat this way. See how it's nice and flat? That's what you're going to want to do. Okay, magnets. We need 2 magnets. Let me just put the lid on my glue real quick here. Put the glue on this one. I need to work on my metal pieces working too well. Okay, let's get out 2 magnets we'll need. Okay, now I'm just going to peek in here to see where my waterfall is, so I'll know how far I can go. I can go pretty far. Okay. So I can go between. Okay, so I'm just going to find the center. And then put a magnet. Okay, so 5 by 4. Oh, that's okay. That's where it's my center. I'm going to bring it down. Oh, my magnet here in the center. I'll bring it over a little bit more. So I think that's going to be good. How far out am I? Just want to be sure. 1 inch. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Okay, so what we can do now is we can put glue on the back of this page, and we can actually glue that down now. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I got that on. I got this page on. So now we need to do is just put the mate onto that magnet. So what we need to do is just close it and make sure you're, even. Don't be tilted. Just make sure you keep your page nice and straight. Get it all lined up how you want it to be. That's good. And then flip it over, and the magnet will find itself. And then you just need to glue it. Okay, so there we go. So this page is complete. So all we need to do now is just put score tape around the whole outside of this, and I'm going to put one down the middle and one across because I'm going to cover up that magnet with score tape. So that's what I do, and I'll show you what mine looks like. Okay, I put my score tape all around, but I'm not going to mount this into our book yet. We're going to go ahead and start working on page 2. That way we can align page 1 up with page 2, because the inside of the album, if you remember from my last tutorial, this inside piece here is larger than my page itself. So in order to line it up, I need to have this page in first. So I'm going to go ahead and get what I need for page 2, and then we'll get started putting that together. Okay, for page 2, now you should have your base page that we put set aside when we did the base page for page 1, so we have that. So with your cardstock, you're going to need to cut a piece 8 by 5 and another piece 8 by 6. Now on the piece that's 8 by 6, on the 8-inch, put it in your scoreboard. And we're going to go 6 inches across is what you're going to be, and then you're going to score at 1/2 and then at 5/8. Now on the one that's 8 by 5, you're going to be 5 across, and then you're going to score at 1/2 and then at 3/4. And then you'll have those two pieces, which you probably already had if you did the cutting guide. Now I'm going to be putting a decorative edge. I'm going to put a die cut. I'm going to put a decorative edge on mine. So what I'm going to be using is the Heartfelt Creations Regal Borders and Pockets. Now I'm going to be using this die, but I'm going to show you on the back how it's going to work. I'm going to cut out a solid piece in the lilac, and then I'm going to cut out this, but I'm not going to use any of the little borders. You know how you can sometimes put a border? Just cut out it plain, just like this, and like that. Because I'm going to put the solid lilac behind this here, and I'm going to do that, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, see, this is what it looks like after I cut. Now I have my score lines here. This is like a double pocket we're going to be doing on this page. Or it's like not a double pocket. It's going to be like a fold out. And so there's this one, and I have, see how I backed it up with the, see, I just backed it up like that. So we have a large one, and we have the smaller one. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting on the side here like this, and then this is going to go like that. And these are going to be like flip outs. They're going to flip on either side. So what we need to do now after we do this is we just need to find our pattern paper and just cut it to fit. So I'm going to look and see what I have, what I'm going to use for these, and I'll let you see what I picked out, and then we'll go from there. Let me go find some paper for that. Okay, what I think I'm going to do on my decorative paper is I'm going to take this out of this one here, this little bracket, and I'm going to put this on my paper because I think I want to bring it up like under there so it looks kind of like that. That's my plan. So I am going to cut that on my paper and see how that looks, and I'll let you see what it looks like, and I'll be right back. Okay, I have mine on. I decided not to do the decorative edging here. I was just having trouble lining everything up, so I decided I was just going to go straight across. So this is what I've done here. This one, and then this, and this. And this is how this just goes together. This is going to go together inside like this. And that's how that's going to run. That's going to go on your page like that. That's how it'll be in the book. But the next thing we need to do is I wanted to put a little, not a full pocket here, but just a little corner tuck spot. And what I'm going to use for that is this die here. This is the one I'm going to use. And I'm actually going to use this one right here. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to take your cardstock and you're going to want to place this on your cardstock. But what you're going to want to do is leave a 1/2 inch border on two sides, on these two sides, and then cut it out, because this is what we're going to use to wrap around our page. So cut that out and leave a 1/2 inch border on both sides. And this is what it will look like, minus the part that I cut out the little notch here where it was together. I cut that out because it'll just fold into the corner. That gives you something to wrap around the page like that. So that would make like a little tuck spot. But besides doing just that, I decided to cut out a piece in the lilac, but without a border, because I'm going to glue it to the inside of this one, and I'm going to off-center it so that you see a little bit of the lilac coming through around. So it just makes it a little bit more like that. And then I'll put that on there like that. So let me go ahead and just glue these two pieces together, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, here's what it looks like. See if you can see what I was trying to get at. Just a little bit of the color showing through, just a little bit. So the next thing we need to do is we need to just put it into wrap it around our corner, the corner of our page. Get it in there good and tight, because you want it all the way in the corner. And then you're just going to take it, and we're just going to glue that down. And I'll hold it just like that, and I can do this. And we'll just glue that down. Sit there like that. And now we have a little tuck spot right here. Maybe we can put something. Okay. So now we just need to put our pages in here. We can put these in. We can do this one at a time. I'm going to just do mine one at a time. I'm just going to hold it, flip it over, put it down, and then I'm going to take the other one, center it up on here, and flip it over, and then glue that down. And then I'll show you what mine looks like. In case I forgot to tell you, you need to make sure your flaps are all the way out when you do that. The very outer ones. And then we'll bring them in after we have them glued down. So don't forget to do that part. Okay, I'm going to do this one with you because this one can be a little bit tricky. Once you have it all the way glued in on the back and you pull this out where it belongs, so it's flat on this side, then take this piece, make sure you take it all the way out, then you line that up with this one, and hold it, and then you're going to glue that one down. And make sure that's, and then you can bring this one out once that's down. So now it's nice and flat on this side, like that. So it looks like this. So now it opens like that, the little pocket, a little tuck spot here. I didn't think of putting magnets on this page. I think it's going to be fine without them. We'll see how it goes. If I find out later that I want to do that, I can always add them. So I'm just going to leave it like this for now. So all I need is turn it over. I'm going to put score tape around the whole perimeter. I'll put one down the middle and two on either side. And then we can mount these in our book. And I'll be right back. Okay, I decided I am going to place a magnet. So what I did is I just went to my little scraps and I found a piece that I cut. And I just rounded the corners out a little bit so that it wasn't looking so straight. And I'm just going to put a little magnet here. And yeah, I think that's what I want to do. Put that where I want it. And hold that. Put this exactly where I want it to be. Everything all lined up. That's where it's going to go. Okay, now it's on top of my tape here, so I'm going to have to lift my tape up. And glue this down with the lines. And that can go back in until I'm ready to put it in my book. So that's what we'll have, and I think that's going to be better to hold that. I'm going to let that set up before I start messing with it and get everything all out of whack while it's still soft. Okay, so I'll let that set up a little bit, and then we'll get this in the book. Okay, so I went out and I went ahead and got me a piece of paper that I could tuck behind here, because when it's like this, I can't see the board, you know, where the paper ends. So I'm going to tuck that under there so I know exactly where I need to be with this, because this is going to be centered top and bottom on this page here, staying away from the score line here. You need to stay away at least 2 millimeters. And then I'm going to glue that down like that. Now this is something I'm going to need to do really close up, because I really need to get my head in there. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to stop the video and do that, and then I'll show you what mine looks like. Okay, I got this page in. This is page 2, so I got that in. And it just opens like that with the pocket. I might even put another little pocket right here. We'll see how that goes. I'm thinking about maybe doing that. But right now, let's go ahead and get our page number 1 in. And that's this one right here. And we'll just take all the score tape off, and then we'll just line it up with the top and bottom of this page here, so it matches. So it'll look like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, we've got our first 2 pages in our book. Very good. This one flips out here with the waterfall, and then this one with our flip outs and our little tuck spot. Okay, so now we're ready, so let's go to page 3. Okay, so what we need for page 3 is you need to get this page out, this piece of paper out right here, and it looks like that on the back. You're going to want to trim this off, and then you're going to want to cut in the middle 6 and then over to 8, so it's a 6 by 8. You'll get 2 of those. Put one away for page 3, and for page 3 we're working on, and then put one set aside for page 4. So that's what we're going to be doing here. So I have mine right here. So this is going to be for my page 3. Now page 3 we're going to be doing a pocket and a flip, a top flip. So what you're going to need to cut out of your cardstock is you need to cut a piece. Let me see what I got here. I've got this piece. For the top flip, we'll need to cut a piece that is, so we cut that off, so 7 3/8, and that's by 6. And then you're going to score at 7/8 and then at 1 inch. That's going to be for your top flap. And for your pocket, I just used a piece of 8 by 11, so this is 8 across, and it's going to be, I've got 5 3/8. And it's also going to depend on what dies you use. As you can see, I use this die here. This is the one I used. I used this one right here, and then I backed it with the lilac paper like that. See, I just cut it out and I just backed it with the lilac paper. I did that for the pocket, and I also did it for the flap. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put our pocket in, and what we're going to do is first let's find some paper for these before I go ahead and attach it. I'd rather do that first. So let's find what papers we want to put on our pocket and our flips, and I'll be right back. Okay, well, I found the papers that I'm going to use. Now this is going to be for the pocket. It probably would have been easier if we went ahead and just folded the pocket in and then measured, but that's okay. I'm going to use this one right here, and it has been cut, just scalloped out on here. Now it is a little bit shorter, as you can see, but I wanted to use it. And what I did is I just went, and the other paper pad, I just trimmed, I just took one of the little trimmings off, little border trims, and then I'm going to put that down on the bottom like that. So that's what I'll do for here. And for the upper flip, I got this, I picked out this pattern, and I cut that out too. And then when you flip it up, it's going to have this one on the back. So that's what I've done here. And if you're not using the dies, you can just go straight across. But so that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm just going to glue them all down, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, well, I have the pocket on the bottom done, but what I want to do is on this flip for the front, the top, I think I'm going to put a magnet also on that one. That's what I'm thinking. I think I want to do that. And don't forget, you need to pull your hinges, your score line, your hinge all the way out when you put your paper in. You're going to need to put it all the way out when we attach it to the back here, which is what I'm going to do now before I put my magnet on. So make sure it's all the way out. Get it centered where you want it to be. Hold it, and then just hold it down. And then this goes, let me bring that back up. There you go. So let's get a magnet for that. Easy use, yeah, easy. There we go. Okay. Now let's see if we want our magnet to go a little further. And I think when I put it in the machine, I put it in. I think that'll work this way if I take it all the way up to the top. That's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to put my magnet. Right there. So I'll just let that set for a minute, and then I'll put my paper on. Okay, let's glue this piece on. How many of this? How many of this? Close that, and then bring this up where it needs to be. Make sure that's straight. Okay, so that's where that goes. Okay, so I flip it over and find where that other magnet needs to go, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do, while I have it over here, I'm going to start putting my score tape around. I'm going to put one right over the magnet and two little ones on either side. And I'll show you what that looks like. Well, I've run into a little bit of a problem on this one. There's a magnet on this page here, so when I'm trying to put this one down, the magnet's grabbing it and it's not letting me line it up. So what I'm going to have to do is page 3 is going to have to turn into page 4, and then page 4 will be page 3. So I just need to be a little bit more aware of where my magnets are. Yeah. Because it's like I can't line it up because the magnet's just grabbing it and holding it right there. If it would have been down just a little bit further, it would have been perfect, but that's the way it is. So I'll go ahead and just move this over to page 4, and then we'll do page 4 as page 3. So let me go get that ready. Okay, so this is our base page for page 4, which is now 3. What we're going to be doing is cutting out 2 of these again, 2 of these little corners with the 1 inch, with the 1/2 inch border, and then cut out 2 in the lilac. And then we're going to just glue these to just offset those. Just glue them down together. And then once we do that, I'll show you what we're going to do with those. Okay, I have both of these done. So this is what they look like with the colored cardstock on the back. So what we're going to do is we're going to put one on one corner. We're going to put one on this corner, and then we're going to go up and put one on this corner. And that's really all we're going to be doing for this page. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these down, and I'm going to put my score tape on the back, and then I'll mount it in my book. Okay, I've got the pages in, and this is what this looks like. And these flaps are totally open, so you'll be able to tuck anything under there. Even a large picture could, slide up under there if you wanted to. And yeah, so that's how that is. I'm going to finish with this one. So now we're on to page 5.